Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. My name is Misty Lynch. I am the Director of Financial Planning at Beck Bodie. And today I wanted to talk about summer spending. And this year is so much different than other years. And so I think it's really important to talk about how we might be thinking and feeling, especially when it comes to the things that we want to do and the actions we're taking, because all of this, everything we do, between our relationships, the goals that we have always boils back down to a financial aspect in some way or another. Usually there's going to be money involved, no matter what you want to do. So, as everyone knows, the past 16 months has been very different and unexpected for people. There was 33.9 million cases of COVID and 607,000 deaths in the past 16 months. And that impacts our brain, whether we realize it or not, whether we got sick or didn't, or we lost somebody or didn't. It impacts our brain. There were shutdowns, layoffs, school closures, all of these things that put additional work and stress on our plates, and not necessarily any different ways to cope with them or handle them. And so if you know that COVID has impacted your thinking and your behavior, and you want to make sure that you kind of get things back in line as the world reopens, then hopefully this webinar will be helpful for you. If you don't think your brain has been impacted at all, I encourage you to stay anyway, because this might be the part of your brain that is overestimating your ability to resist temptations and impulsive behavior. We all have it. Financial advisors have it. Everybody on the team has it. We're all human beings. And so I think it's important just to stick around, and hopefully everybody will listen and hopefully get a little bit out of it. So what I want to talk about first, and I'm going to go back to a book that I read a long time ago that completely changed the way I thought about my brain. And it's called Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. And so he says that all of us have two types of brains. We have our hot brain and our cold brain, basically our fast brain and our slow brain. So when you think about your hot brain, it's not the hot, outfit or hot new restaurant. It's the hot brain that's more like when you go to a restaurant planning to order a salad and a plate of sizzling fajitas walks by. Your hot brain is going to decide nope, change of plans. We don't want that we planned out yesterday. We want that because right now that is super tempting, looks delicious, and we're ready to go. Our hot brain is useful. It's very useful at times. Most of one of the good reasons about it is that, it keeps us emotional. It keeps us impacted by, our surroundings. It's, there's no effort to it. Little or no effort is involved when you have to make decisions using this part of your brain. It takes over in an emergency. Your kid falls down, or you see someone who's hurt and you run over, you help. You don't debate the pros and cons, you just act. So that's the part of our brain that kind of kicks in those scenarios. And it really helps us be efficient at the things that we're good at. And for example, my father doesn't go to restaurants very often, probably ever, and he doesn't cook. So my mother just puts food in front of him and he eats it. And so when I go out somewhere with him, and the waitress asks what kind of salad dressing he likes, he'll just stand there and be like, well, I don't know. What do you have? And then she'll go through her list, and then he'll be like, well, what's French? What is that one? Because he really honestly has no clue what's going on. And it's painfully slow when you're with somebody who should be able to be like, this is what I like. You go to Dunkin' Donuts and you get your coffee cream only, same way every day. That's that hot brain that should take over, save us time. And when you realize that it's not working, you're kind of like, come on, pick up the pace, especially if you're from the Northeast like me. So I feel like that hot brain can be very useful in different scenarios. Now, our hot brain does cause some problems. And this comes into play when we talk about our money and our spending. It makes us jump to conclusions. It reinforces biases that we already have. It doesn't want to consider any new information or material. You can never shut it off. Even if you are the most thoughtful person who likes to analyze things, you cannot shut that piece of your brain off. It's always running. And it also can make us overconfident at times. So that, in comparison to our cold brain, the slow brain, the part of us that's just uniquely human, this is the one that is deliberate, and it likes to be analytical. It's the controlled actions in the decisions that we make. It follows rules. It compares choices and makes deliberate action. And it's self-control, agency, and choice. I'm a financial planner. This is a space that I live in. I love doing planning. I love doing the things that I say I'm going to do. I feel like that has, for almost everything I've ever done, is just planning ahead of time. If I say I'm going to work out at 8 a.m. on Wednesday, I do it. Because when it comes to be 8 a.m. on Wednesday, I don't want to. I want to do anything else. I want to go walk the dog, make breakfast, go get a coffee, do anything else. But if you just consistently do the things that you plan to do ahead of time, even if they're not hard, eventually you're always going to be able to control that hot brain that wants to do something else. So cold brain slows things down, and it definitely helps us take in a lot of information and solve complicated problems, guides us in unfamiliar situations. This time that we're in right now is an unfamiliar situation. Post-COVID, we are now trying to readjust back into a world where we're not really sure, should we go here? Is this place still open? Is it okay to go into this place without a mask? Now I have to, try to figure out all of those things that I put off. Like, should I make a dentist? What should I do now that I didn't do? It's very unfamiliar. So we were just kind of jolted out of our, normal life. And so I think that our planning brain, the part that we can use and we can rely on, will help us still do the things we want to do, make sure that we're all going to readjust. We're naturally just going to get back into the swing of things. But I think that piece of our brain can be really, really helpful for us now. And it also, has its flaws. It's slow. When I talk to people about their investments and planning and deciding, we'll look at calculators and spreadsheets, and we might be starting out with $1,000, $10,000. And then we show, if we keep this behavior up, look at what happens in 10, 20, 30 years. It's like magic. But when you're doing it and you're carrying out a plan, it's slow and frustrating. So anybody who's ever tried to lose weight, put on muscle, get a degree, do something that, write a book, all of these things that require our slow brain, that plan ahead that we want to do, it's slow and it can be frustrating. And you're always going to be fighting against that hot brain that's like, shouldn't we be doing something that's more fun? And this is the part that says, no, we got to stay the course. So, but it also can get a little overwhelmed when a lot of decisions are put on our plate at the same time. That's why I've talked in other webinars about things like estate planning, doing that stuff ahead of time, because when everything is thrown on your plate at once and you need to make really smart decisions, it can get very overwhelming if you're under stress or pressure or grieving. So just some of those things to keep in mind as you make your decisions. When it comes to your money, your cold brain wins all day long. You want to go with the slow, thoughtful, deliberate actions. And right now, we're on fire. And there's a few reasons why. We've been deprived social interaction. We've had personal losses to losses of life and abilities, things like that around us. We've had income losses, some people have. Places have closed. We've had extra responsibilities put on our plate. I talk to a lot of people who tell me that 2020 was supposed to have been their year. And so they were maybe going to get married or graduate or start a new job or do something with work. And they're angry and we want revenge. We're human. And so it's very human to want revenge, want to take action, want to get back at this year that was robbed from us. And that sometimes means spending money. And that's okay. It's good to, I encourage people to have a budget that includes fun, makes them happy, gives them joy. But when we start spending money that we don't want to spend, we're not getting revenge on the pandemic. We're getting revenge on ourselves. It's basically, it's just possibly hurting us in the long run. So here are some tips that I have for this situation. The first one is to always keep the long term in focus. I think I can't remember one single person that I spoke with during the pandemic that had money saved for, an emergency, for a couple, like if they lost their job for a few months or they had to pick up the slack or kind of spend more in a different area to cover certain things. People who had their money in order, not one person said, you know what, I regret having money saved or money available or money invested that I could actually access when I needed it. Anytime you're in a crisis, having money available to you is huge. It can be such a game changer for people when it comes to stress and anxiety and actually having access to better decisions when you need to make a decision that's tough. So having that long-term still be in focus is super important. And so I think that, this is just a sign because there could be other pandemics. There could be computer viruses that shut down work. There could be other things that temporarily throw us off balance. And all of us are used to that now. So I think it might be okay for us to say, you know what, maybe I need to start kind of figuring out, maybe do some planning and figure out what I'm doing with my money just in case, because this is just obvious to everybody now that it does happen. Same thing when we look at weather events. I mean, there's been $298 billion weather events since 1980. Everybody has known somebody who's been in a hurricane, flood, fire, and understand that like this could happen. And if you have money or you have access to money or you understand where your money is and like the order of operation, that just eliminates a lot of stress when we get thrown in these situations that we can't anticipate. And then I think, you're going to want to have money, when you have money, say now you just got money today. People who have children that are under 18. And if you're under, I think if joint income is like under $400,000. So that's a lot of people who maybe did not get a stimulus check, but still would get this if they have minor children. Where do you want it? Like thinking ahead about what to do with that, where you want to put it, instead of being like, oh, these poor kids, they've been so deprived. Maybe we just go take them up to, somewhere on trip without even really thinking about it. It's still fine to take the kids on vacation if you want to, but I would give yourself a minute to think about it. And for some people, you might say, okay, well, we have a trip planned in August, but we have this money. We don't need to spend it somewhere else. Maybe we could invest it for them. Maybe we could pay off something early. I don't know, but it's just good to kind of use that, realize when you're in hot brain, you have this money, and then slow down and then make the decision kind of weighing all the different options you have. Another tip that I want people to keep in mind is about retirement. So retirement cannot be borrowed for. You can't just go to get a loan from the bank to pay for your retirement if you didn't save enough money. Obviously, they wouldn't want that because they don't think you're going to pay them back. So it could be tempting to cash out your retirement accounts, but it's for something you want to do right now. But it is better to weigh the options and only, do that if it's necessary. And sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes people do need to do that, and that's okay. A lot of people have done that in the past, whatever. But I think that should be something that you are very, very careful about doing because of taxes and penalties. But also, I think that it's important to recognize, like I was reading something in NPR where it says that 2021 is the Great Resignation. So it's a really unusual time where there's millions of people that are out of work, but then there's labor shortages. It's very unusual. So I think there's going to be a lot of people that are changing jobs and going from maybe one place to another, and they may have money saved in their retirement, and they may be thinking like, well, I'll just cash it out and, buy some new clothes for this new job, where it's like, okay, well, maybe if you actually didn't do that and you rolled it into something else and kept investing in it, and signed up for your new benefits quickly and whatever, that could be, hundreds of thousands of dollars down the road that you can decide to do something very mindful with. So I think as people are shifting jobs, people are shifting priorities. They might be like, you know what, I don't want this long commute, or they might have a low paying job and have found a better one. So there might be different things. And so I think this is a really good time, if you don't talk to a planner or an advisor, to figure those types of major decisions out and bounce those off of someone. I'm talking to somebody in 15 minutes about the same thing because it's like something new came up at work and I'm curious, but like at least had the thought to talk about it with somebody else, So I think that's one important thing that you can do if you do have money in motion at this time. And one of the last things I want to talk about is if you want to travel. I wanted to travel so badly. The pandemic, like most people didn't feel safe staying in a hotel or going on a flight. It was just a very difficult time for people. If you had to travel, it was scary. If you couldn't travel, it was kind of disappointing. And so I want people to plan ahead when they think about travel. These things can be very expensive. Last minute flight changes and hotels, any types of changes to your itinerary or things that you don't plan for, like transportation once you get there. If you don't know, then you might kind of, be spending more money if there was maybe a less expensive option if you did some research. I've heard a lot of people who want to go international, but their passports aren't ready or they don't have the passports for the kids. Right now, there's an 18-week backlog with passports. So if you're trying to get that expedited, that's going to add extra cost to everything that you want to do. So, if you have fall travel planned and you need to take a look at your passport right now, plan ahead and see if you need to update it or if, your spouse doesn't have one that's current. And also check the places that you want to go and make sure they're still open. We were in Cape Cod last week and I drove across town, which is not a huge expense. It's just gas or whatever. But I drove to a place that I loved to get breakfast at. And just assuming, well, business is back. And they were closed because they had no staffing. So just even calling ahead and kind of checking in to see like, hey, are these places still open? Especially if you're going a longer distance, maybe a day trip somewhere, to make sure, because there are, like I said before, labor shortages. So some of these places that have summer help or, low wage employees, which is a lot of, restaurants, bars, entertainment, stuff like that, check to see if they're still open. It might save you a little bit of money and time. If you want to update your wardrobe because you've been wearing elastic waist pants for the past month or, 16 months, definitely be smart about it. Clear out what you have. If you want to, get rid of it, you can look at the stuff in your home. There's things like Facebook Marketplace, Poshmark, where you can actually like list the big toys that the kids don't play with, and somebody will like pay you, come take it out of your yard for you. So there's definitely ways to kind of get rid of the stuff that you have. And I think people are looking for things that, maybe they couldn't find as easily. And then take an inventory of what you have left. You want to spend if you go shopping. If you really need to control this part, because spending does a few things when we go shopping. Provides social interaction. We haven't been able to go into stores and just walk around and browse. Haven't been able to go into dressing rooms if we wanted to try something on. So there's all these things that shopping does if that's the way you like to feel better, that kind of gives your brain a little bit of that hot brain, this was fun kick. And so, if you have really, you feel like you've just been buying and buying and buying, you could always set a limit for how much you want to spend. You could plan what you want in advance and go get it. You could do, you could pay in cash. That hurts. No one likes handing over cash. Nobody. So that's definitely one way, if you feel like you just need to rein in your spending a little bit, to do that. And then the last point that I want to make is to recognize why you're spending. And this could be, spending can just be one way that people use, to buffer their feelings. Every time we feel negative emotion, there's going to be this response to want to feel better. That could mean, if you like to shop, that can mean that can mean going to a store and spending money. If you like to drink or eat, those all are things that you might do if you say, hey, I feel kind of bad. And then your brain will say, okay, let's fix it. But really what that's doing, it's kind of like, it's not going to fix the pain you're in. If you lost a loved one, or you're feeling sad, or you're depressed or lonely, or you're having feelings that are negative as a result of what's going on in the world, or just in general, if you just try to respond and do something that you enjoy, it's like holding a beach ball underwater. You can only do it for so long. And then eventually it'll burst out into the air. So if you take a little bit of time, you can maybe get help, maybe start journaling, move your body, go for a walk. Just take a minute to recognize what your brain is feeling and that you have this urge to do something. And then just before you do it, this could work, this could help. Just decide you're going to go tomorrow. Decide, I'll have a glass of wine tomorrow. I'll go shopping tomorrow. Give yourself a little bit of a window. There's nothing that's that urgent that you're going to miss it or you're going to need it. And then give yourself a minute to actually process some of the things that are going on in your brain. It can be really helpful. It can almost be, sometimes I'll put things in a cart on Amazon and I will go back a couple of days later and I forget I even put them there. And I just don't do anything, one click or whatever, because that's just using the hot brain, the fast brain, instead of using the slow planning side of my brain that I really like to use when it comes to spending. So that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. If you feel like you need to get your spending under control, or you want to plan, or you feel like you just didn't like the way it felt to feel chaos and not have anyone to speak with about your money, then definitely reach out to your advisor. Back Bodhi a call. I think it would be really great to work through this stuff with you, because it's hard. And sometimes it's helpful to have the advice of a person who is outside of your brain. And it kind of can be like reading a label from the inside of a bottle versus having somebody from our team be able to look at it from the outside and help you out and help you reach your goals faster. So thank you very much. I hope you all have a great week, and we'll talk again soon.